our last lesson, we were factoring quadratics when a equals 1. So let me give you an example of what we did the other day. We had something like x squared plus 5x plus 10, something like that, where your a value is 1. Now we're going to do something where your a value is more than 1. Okay, so now we have something like this, where notice your a value is not 1, it's 2. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do. So first we need to get it in standard form. So standard form means I'm going to have to move this 5 to this side, making it a minus 5. Everything else can just come down. And since I moved this 5, it's no longer there. There's just 0 there. There's nothing on the right-hand side, so we just put 0. So that's standard form. So for standard form, you're going to put 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. Make sure you put a minus sign. Whenever you move things across the equal sign, the sign changes. So it's now a minus 5 instead of a 5. Okay, now we're going to factor this. Now, whenever my a value is bigger than 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply a value and the c value. So guys, what is the a value times the c value? -10. And my b value is -9. So let's think of two numbers that'll multiply to be -10, but combine to be -9. I'm just going to go down the list. So I'm going to start with 1 times -10 will give me -10, and also -1 times a +10 will multiply to give me -10. Which one of those will add to -9? Yep, 1 and -10. That will combine to give you -9. So those are my factors, x plus 1 and x minus 10. So let's write our steps off to the side. Step 1 was to multiply a and c. Our step 2 was to do your little chart. Do the chart. Step number 3, we're going to divide by a. Please write down those steps. I'm going to divide by a. What was our a value? 2. So my next step is I'm going to divide this number by my a value and this number by my a value. What should you always do to fractions? Simplify them. Yes. So number 4, I'm going to put simplify. If you see a fraction, try to simplify it if you can. Can 1/2 be simplified? Nope, that's as good as it'll get. What about 10/2? What's 10 divided by 2? 5. So that means this is going to be x plus 1/2 and x minus 5, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. So now it's simplified. Okay, now if I want to solve, what did we do yesterday if we wanted to solve? Yep, you just switch the signs. So x will be, what's opposite of 1/2? -1/2. What's opposite of -5? +5. So those are my answers. X equals -1/2 and x equals 5. Now let's talk about the factors. I do not want to leave this in fraction form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the denominator in the front. Everyone circle that denominator and draw an arrow to the front. So my factor will be 2x plus 1. I put the denominator in the front. And then my second factor will just remain the same. So guys, these are my factors. And these are my solutions. So when it says factor completely, these are your factors. 2x plus 1 and x minus 5. So when they're in the parentheses, these are your factors. When you solve it, you get x equals something. Those are your solutions. Okay, so how many solutions did we have? 2. So just put 2. And what are the x-intercepts? Well, that's what this is. You have an x-intercept at -1/2. So I can put -1/2. That's one of your x-intercepts. The other x-intercept is at 5, 0. What this means, guys, if you were to graph this, it would cross the x-axis at 5 and 1/2. Your graph would look like that. Make sense? We're finding solutions, x-intercepts, when we do this, where it crosses the x-axis. All right, let's do the next example. Okay, is that in standard form? It is not. I'm going to move this -24x to the other side and this +18 to the other side. So in standard form, it'll be 24x squared. When I move stuff, remember the sign changes. So this will now be a +24x and a -18. Those signs change. So now it's in standard form. Okay, now we're going to factor it. What can all of these numbers be divided by? Yep. I'm going to do the biggest number that it can be divided by, which is 6. It can also be divided by 2, but then you'll have to divide again. So I'm going to do the biggest common factor, which is 6. All right, so what's 24 divided by 6? 4. So 24 divided by 6 again will be 4. And then 18 divided by 6 will be 3. Okay, so now we simplified it a bit. I'm going to put a 6 on the outside because, guys, I should always be able to get back to my original problem. You guys see if I put the 6 here, 6 times 4 will give me the 24. This 6 times this 4 will give me 24 again. And this 6 times the -3 will give me -18 again. Okay, so if you divide all by 6s, put the 6 on the outside because you want to be able to get back to where you started. Okay, we don't want to lose it. Okay, so this is where we are. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do my steps again. You should have written in your notes that step 1 is to multiply A and C. Okay, so what is A and C in this case? Yep, 4 and -3. So I'm going to multiply them. I get -12. My B value is 4. So let's think of 2 numbers that'll multiply to -12, but combine to give you 4. I'm going to go down the list. 1 times -12, -1 times +12 will give me -12. 2 times a -6 and -2 times a +6 will give me -12. And I can just stop here because I see my answer. -2 and 6 combined is 4. -2 plus 6 is 4. So those are my factors. Let's go ahead and put it in. So I'll have x minus 2 and x plus 6. And don't forget that 6 is on the outside. Okay, so we did step 2, which was to do the little eye chart, find your numbers. Do you guys remember what step 3 is? Yay, divide by A. And if you didn't write down the steps last time, please write them down now. So what was my A value? 4. So guys, we're going to divide by 4. Divide this by 4, divide this by 4. And guys, what was step number 4? What do I do? Simplify fractions, exactly. All right, so I have 2 over 4. Yep, 1/2. You divide the top by 2 and the denominator by 2. So you'll get 1/2. Okay? Again, for this one, I'm going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now my fractions are simplified. Okay? So real quick, at this stage, what are my answers? X equals what? We have to do the opposite, right? So it'll be 1/2 and -3/2. And the reason why is, guys, if I set this equal to 0, well, what number minus 1/2 is 0? 1/2, right? 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. That means the x value is 1/2. Here, -3/2 plus 3/2 would give you 0. So those x values are going to be opposites. Okay, now let's talk about my factors. Let's talk about the factors. We're going to bring the denominator to the front. So that's step number 5. I'll just say bottom. Let's keep it short. Bring bottom to the front. So guys, let me circle the denominator. This is the denominator. Bring it to the front. This is the denominator. Bring it to the front. So your factors are 2x minus 1 and 2x plus 3. So those are my factors. So factored form is 2x minus 1 and 2x plus 3. Guys, another way to find your answers down here is just from this stage. From this stage, equal it to 0. 2x minus 1 equal it to 0. Add 1 to both sides, then divide by 2. You get 1/2, just like we got. So if you want to, you can also solve it from here. Equal it to 0, subtract 3, so you get 2x equals -3, divide by 2. It's simpler just to do the opposite. Okay? All right, next example. Are y'all ready? Yeah. Okay, so guys, we forgot about this 6. Thank you for catching that. We had a 6 on the outside. Make sure that comes along. Okay, so that means we need a 6 right here. Don't forget that 6. Thank you, sir. Example 3. Okay, so this is in standard form. So I'm just going to put standard form right here. Okay, so guys, can both of these numbers be divided by something, the same thing? 25 and 4. Example 3, I don't have it. Is there a number that all of these can be divided by, the 25 and the 4? No? No. Besides 1, these can't be divided by the same number. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and move on. Remember, step 1 is multiply A times C. This is A. Do we have a B value? No, but we have a C value. Okay, so what's 25 times -4? Yep, -100. My B value, I don't have a B value. So what do you think we're going to put for B? 0, because there's nothing in the middle. We're missing the middle term. So we need to think of 2 numbers that if you multiply them, they give you 100. 10 and -10. 10 times -10 is -100, but 10 minus 10 is 0. So these are my factors. X plus 10 and X minus 10. Okay, so we did step 2, which is do the little eye chart. We found our numbers. What is step 3? Yes, divide by A. What was our A value? Yep, 25. Let me highlight it. This is our A value, 25. So I'm going to do step 3, which is divide by 25. Divide this number by 25. Divide this number by 25. And whenever you have fractions, you need to simplify. So that's my next step. Simplify. Okay. So the numerator and the denominator can both be divided by 5. Okay. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. Yes. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So that's my first factor. Next one will be the same thing. This will become 2/5. Okay, so guys, what will my answers be? Yep. -2/5 and 2/5. Notice they called them roots this time. What are other names they could use? Zeros, x-intercepts, good. Solutions. So these all mean the same thing. Sometimes they'll ask you for the roots. Sometimes they'll ask you for the zeros or x-intercepts. Okay, factor form. Circle the denominator, bring it to the front. Circle the denominator, bring it to the front. So my final factored form is 5x plus 2 and 5x minus 2. That is your factored form. These are your two factors. These are called factors. Okay. Do you guys want one more example? Silence. Okay, if you do not need an example, I'm going to go ahead and give you the practice. All right, for those of you guys who want to go ahead and continue practicing, go ahead. I'm going to do one last example on the board. So if you would like one more example, please look up here. So I'm going to move this negative 6x squared to the side and this negative 2x to this side. So I'm going to write what I have. I have 2x squared minus 4x minus 3. That was already there. But I'm moving the negative 6x squared, so it'll be a positive 6x squared. I move the minus 2x, it becomes a plus 2x. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So I'll highlight what I'm going to combine. 2x squared and 6x squared is 8x squared. So I'm going to write 8x squared. Next, negative 4x plus 2x. That is minus 2x. And then I have a negative 3. So this is standard form. Step 1, it's to always multiply A times C. So A times C is negative 24. This is A times C here. My B value is negative 2. So I'm going to think of numbers that will multiply to negative 24, but combine to give me negative 2. So I'm just going to list my numbers. I can do 1 times negative 24, 2 times negative 12, 3 times negative 8, 4 times negative 6. Oh, I think I found my answer. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Or 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. So those are my two numbers. I'm going to put it in my parentheses, x plus 4 and x minus 6. So step 2, we completed it. It was to make the eye chart. Step 3 is to divide by A. And in the beginning, this is my A value, 8. So I'm going to divide by 8. Step 4, simplify. So I'm going to divide this by 4, divide this one by 2. So this will be a half, and this will be 3/4. My zeros, my solutions, will be the opposite of these. So it'll be x equals negative a half and x equals 3/4. Those are my solutions. And then factored form, bring the denominator to the front. Bring the denominator to the front. So this will be 2x plus 1. This will be 4x minus 3. So that's your factored form. 2x plus 1 4x minus 3. So these are called factors. You have two factors. And in this problem, we have two solutions. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on the screen for you, and I'll be walking around if you need help. I'm going to end this.